Imagine putting an incredibly expensive, really high-stakes home renovation on your credit card. You can hear the construction crews hammering, you see the scaffolding go up, but you never actually look at the itemized invoice. You just swipe the card, wince a little, and hope for the best. It's a very human, very common willful blind spot. We focus entirely on the desired outcome, the finished product, the safety, the security, while completely ignoring the messy, usually exorbitant reality. But what happens when that bill finally arrives in the mail? Welcome. Today we're pulling back the curtain on the true economic costs. We're going to figure out exactly who pays for this, and how these distant geopolitical events are showing up right now in your wallet. To wrap our heads around this, we have to start with the sheer, mind-numbing scale of recent spending. U.S. military operations in the wider Middle East since October 2023 have cost taxpayers somewhere between $9.65 billion and $12.07 billion. The bulk of this spending is concentrated on two major campaigns, Operation Rough Rider and Operation Midnight Hammer. Operation Rough Rider was a sustained, intense bombing campaign against Houthi forces in Yemen. The U.S. conducted over 1,000 individual strikes. The U.S. relied heavily on Tomahawk cruise missiles. A single Tomahawk costs between $1.5 million and $1.9 million. Let that sink in. And what were those missiles hitting? Houthi drones are largely built with off-the-shelf, low-cost commercial components for as little as $2,000. It's like firing a multi-million-dollar Ferrari into the sky to destroy a used moped. Just to move a single Patriot missile defense system, the military required 73 separate C-17 cargo flights. Each hour costs $27,000. Then there's accidental attrition. The Navy lost 3 F/A-18 Super Hornets in routine towing and landing accidents. That's $210 million lost. Imagine every income tax paid by every resident of a mid-sized American town over their entire lifetimes. All of it gone. Operation Midnight Hammer targeted Iran's deeply buried underground nuclear facilities, the heavily fortified sites at Fordo and Natanz. The mission required B-2 stealth bombers. Wear and tear on specialized coatings costs approximately $175,000 per hour of flight time. This stems from a strategic doctrine. The United States made a conscious choice to substitute highly expensive technology for human lives. The political calculus is straightforward. The American public will tolerate a massive financial deficit. They will not tolerate body bags. The proposed solution? Directed energy weapons, microwave lasers. But the R&D required simply feeds a never-ending cycle of billion-dollar spending. Think of the Strait of Hormuz in the Red Sea as the global economy's jugular vein. Squeeze it, and inflationary pressure spikes everywhere. Prior to these escalations, 30% of the world's container traffic passed through the Red Sea. Reroutes caused gas to spike overnight. Contrast that overseas spending with our domestic budget. The Treasury's FY 2025 budget requests $14.4 billion for its entire core program. An entire year of core domestic financial services costs roughly the same as a few months of dropping bunker busters in the Middle East. There's a question we have to ask, because the mechanics of what economists call the war economy dictate that someone always profits. It is driven by a dark, reliable core paradox. Destruction creates demand. Major defense contractors see enormous windfalls when geopolitical tensions rise. According to financial analysis, Lockheed Martin pulled in $67 billion in revenue in 2023, the vast majority coming directly from government contracts. When Russia invaded Ukraine, Raytheon saw its stock jump nearly 8% in a single week. Northrop Grumman climbed over 40% in the months following that initial invasion. What we're watching play out in the stock market is a phenomenon called sector rotation. During peacetime, portfolio managers chase growth in technology or consumer discretionary, travel, restaurants, luxury goods. The moment a major conflict erupts, their risk algorithms flash red. Inflation and uncertainty crush consumer spending, so institutional managers move billions of dollars into safe havens, defense, energy, and industrial sectors. Defense ETFs like IT and SHAR reliably outperform the broader market during periods of global panic. It's clockwork. And it's not just the stock market. Massive geopolitical business deals fuel this economy in the background, such as the recently announced $600 billion technology and defense deal with Saudi Arabia, including a record-breaking arms deal. When we see this sector rotation happening so automatically, is it just cold portfolio protection? Or does this reliable, massive profitability actually incentivize a permanent war economy? Are we trapped in a system that needs conflict to deliver quarterly earnings? The honest answer is, it's less about comic book greed and more about the cold mechanics of the system itself. For a portfolio manager, moving money into defense stocks during a crisis isn't a moral endorsement of violence. It's protecting their clients' retirement assets from volatility based on decades of historical patterns. But systemically, when an entire vital sector relies on geopolitical instability for revenue growth, the financial incentives are undeniably skewed toward ongoing conflict. The market mechanism inherently rewards escalation. Here's the fundamental asymmetry. The profits of war are highly concentrated among a very small group of defense giants, aerospace contractors, and their institutional shareholders. But the costs, the supply chain shocks, the inflation at the grocery store, those are distributed broadly across the entire civilian population. Gains are privatized, costs are socialist. Those concentrated profits are ultimately paid out by the government through massive defense contracts. But as the Treasury budgets make painfully clear, governments rarely save up for wars. We are paying for it on the national credit card, through national debt. This is the ultimate long-term hidden cost of war, and it lingers in the economy for generations. Before World War II, U.S. debt hovered around 50% of GDP. By the war's end, it had exploded to 119%. For the Iraq and Afghanistan wars alone, the U.S. has already paid over $1 trillion, just servicing the interest on borrowed money. The true cost isn't just a headline. It is the interest compounding daily. It is the macroeconomic drag you will be paying for decades. We talked about the brutal math of shooting down a $2,000 homemade drone with a $2 million missile. In the future, wars might be won simply by bankrupting the opponent, draining their treasury one cheap drone at a time. So the next time you hear about a high-stakes geopolitical operation, remember that incredibly expensive home renovation on the credit card. The work stops eventually. And when it does, you are the one who has to look at the invoice. Subscribe to Ticker Talk and see you next week.